The morning Nora Blackwood received the transmission that would change everything. She was sitting in her small apartment overlooking the Pacific, watching the sunrise paint the ocean in shades of gold and pink. Her coffee had gone cold an hour ago, forgotten beside her as she worked through another stack of cultural exchange reports. As Earth's lead cultural liaison, she'd spent the past 3 years building bridges between humanity and the scattered alien civilizations they'd encountered. But nothing had prepared her for what was about to unfold. Her holographic display flickered to life above her kitchen table, casting ethereal blue light across her tired features. The face that materialized made her heart skip tall elegant, with skin that seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly luminescence and eyes like distant stars. Nora, the voice was soft, familiar, and spoke her name with an accent that sent warmth flooding through her chest. Zephyr Kane looked exactly as he had when she'd last seen him 6 months ago, when he'd supposedly returned to his home world for important family matters. Except now, she could see stars moving behind him through what appeared to be a ship's viewport. Zephyr, her voice caught in her throat. Where are you? The transmission signature. It's coming from just outside our solar system. His expression was pained, beautiful in the way that had first captured her attention during those long cultural exchange sessions. They'd spent countless hours together, sharing stories of their respective worlds, discussing art, literature, and the dreams that transcended the space between civilizations. Somewhere during those late nights, reviewing cultural protocols and translation matrices, Nora had fallen deeply in love with this enigmatic being. Nora, I need you to listen very carefully, Zephyr said, his voice carrying a weight she'd never heard before. What I'm about to tell you will sound impossible, but you must trust me. She set down her coffee cup with trembling hands. Through their time working together, their relationship had remained carefully professional, bound by interstellar diplomatic protocols, but the attraction had been undeniable. Stolen glances during formal meetings, hands that lingered too long when passing documents, conversations that stretched far beyond their official duties. The fleet you're going to detect in approximately 4 hours, Zephyr continued, his star-bright eyes meeting hers through the hologram, isn't what it appears to be. Nora's blood turned to ice. What fleet? The largest armada the galaxy has ever assembled, he said quietly. 12,000 ships from 47 different worlds, all converging on Earth. His image wavered slightly, as if the transmission was struggling across vast distances. Nora, I need you to understand I'm not just a cultural exchange specialist. The apartment suddenly felt too small, the walls closing in around her. What are you saying? I'm the advanced scout. Zephyr's voice was barely above a whisper. I've been living on Earth for the past 2 years, not as a diplomat, but as a cultural analyst, studying your people, learning your ways, preparing for this moment. Before Nora could respond, her emergency communicator blazed to life. Marcus Vale's voice crackled through the static, urgent and commanding. Nora, we need you at the command center immediately. We've got massive energy signatures approaching the outer planets. This is not a drill. She looked back at the hologram, where Zephyr waited with patient, desperate eyes that seemed to hold the weight of stars. The Armada isn't coming to conquer you, he whispered, his voice filled with an emotion that made her heart race. They're coming because Earth sent them an invitation 50 years ago, and now it's time to honor it. But more than that, he paused, and she saw vulnerability flash across his features. I was supposed to remain objective, Nora. I was supposed to study your species and report back with clinical observations. And she breathed, and instead, I fell in love, he said simply, with your world, with your people's incredible capacity for hope and growth. And his eyes locked onto hers. With you. The transmission cut out, leaving Nora alone with the morning light streaming through her windows and a world that had suddenly become far more beautiful and terrifying than she'd ever imagined. 20 minutes later, Nora stood in the command center beneath the Pacific Defense Complex, surrounded by holographic displays showing the impossible. Marcus Vale, a man who'd dedicated his life to understanding and preparing for extraterrestrial contact, stood at the center of it all. His usually calm demeanor cracked with amazement rather than fear. 12,000 ships. he said without looking at her, his voice filled with wonder, energy signatures unlike anything we've cataloged. But he turned to face her, his expression shifting to something approaching awe. Nora, they're broadcasting on every frequency simultaneously, the same message, translated into every human language. What does it say? Nora asked, though part of her already knew. Marcus activated the main display, and words appeared in flowing script across the holographic interface. People of Earth, we are coming not as conquerors, but as guests. 50 years ago, your world extended an invitation to the stars, asking who else might be out there, hoping that you were not alone. We heard you. We have been preparing for this moment ever since, and now we come with gifts, with celebrations, and with hope that the connections formed between our worlds will grow into something beautiful. Prepare your table, Earth. The galaxy accepts your invitation. Nora felt tears pricking at her eyes. The Arecibo message, she whispered. Exactly. Marcus nodded, pulling up historical data that streamed around them like digital waterfalls. 1974. Earth's scientists transmitted a radio message into space, aimed at the globular star cluster M13. It contained information about humanity, Earth's location, and what essentially amounted to an invitation for contact. But Marcus, Nora said carefully, I need to tell you something about Zephyr. He just contacted me, and he's not who we thought he was. Marcus finished, but his tone wasn't accusatory. Instead, it carried a note of impressed admiration. Nora, after he left Earth 6 months ago, I decided to do some investigating. Standard security protocol for anyone who'd had extended contact with our cultural liaisons. He activated another display that showed communication logs, behavioral analysis, and cultural data streams that painted a picture of the most sophisticated anthropological study ever conducted. The being you've come to care for, he's been creating the most detailed study of human civilization imaginable. Every conversation you shared, every cultural insight you offered, every moment of connection between you, it was all being carefully documented and transmitted to the approaching fleet. Nora's heart clenched, but Marcus continued before she could speak. But here's what's remarkable. Nora, starting about 8 months ago, Zephyr's reports began to change. They shifted from clinical observations to something much more personal, much more protective. He's been advocating for humanity, Marcus said with a smile. His recent transmissions aren't just cultural data. They're passionate arguments for why Earth should be approached with respect, care, and genuine friendship. He's been fighting for us, Nora. The command center's main screen shifted to show real-time sensor data as the first ships of the approaching fleet became visible to Earth's deep space monitoring stations. Instead of the angular, weapon-heavy vessels of an invasion force, the ships that appeared were works of art, flowing, organic designs that seemed to dance through space, their hulls adorned with what could only be described as celebratory decorations. Nora's personal communicator activated once more, and Zephyr's image appeared, now clearly visible aboard one of the approaching vessels. Behind him, she could see beings of various species working together, their movements coordinated but relaxed, like a team preparing for a celebration rather than a battle. Nora, Marcus, Zephyr said, nodding to them both. I hope you can forgive the deception, but it was necessary. My people, all of our peoples, needed to understand humanity before we could properly accept your invitation. Zephyr, Nora said, her voice thick with emotion. What you did, studying us, learning about us, was any of it real? What we shared, the conversations, the connection between us. His expression softened, and she could see other beings in the background turning to listen, their alien features somehow conveying curiosity and kindness. Nora, that's exactly what I need you to understand, he said gently. I came to Earth as a scout. Yes, but I stayed as a friend. And I fell in love not just with your world, but with you. Every moment we shared was real. Every conversation we had changed me, made me see the universe through human eyes. Marcus stepped forward. Zephyr, what can you tell us about what's coming? What should Earth expect? Expect wonder. Zephyr smiled, and Nora felt her heart soar. Expect the greatest celebration our galaxy has ever seen. 47 civilizations, Marcus. all coming together to welcome humanity into our cosmic community. We're bringing artists, musicians, poets, scientists, and philosophers. We're bringing gifts of knowledge, technology, and friendship." He paused, his gaze returning to Nora. "And some of us are bringing our hearts, hoping that the connections we've formed might grow into something even more beautiful." Elena Frost stood on the observation deck of the starship Celestial Harmony, watching Earth grow larger through the crystalline viewport. Her fingers traced nervous patterns against the cool metal railing as she struggled with emotions that had no proper place in an Andorian princess. Behind her, the ship hummed with activity as her people prepared for the grand celebration. But Elena's thoughts were consumed by a single human face she couldn't forget. "Your Highness." Admiral Voss's deep voice rumbled behind her. The grizzled military leader had served her family for decades, and his protective instincts had only grown stronger since her father's death. "The cultural briefings begin in 1 hour. The council expects your full attention." Elena didn't turn around. "Tell me about the human artist again, Voss. The one whose work we studied." During our approach, she felt rather than saw the Admiral's disapproval. "Princess, we've discussed this. James River is a talented individual, yes, but he's also a primitive being from a world we're only just beginning to understand. Your interest in his artwork is concerning." "Concerning?" Elena finally faced him, her luminous silver eyes flashing. "With inherited royal authority, or threatening to your carefully planned diplomatic arrangements?" Admiral Voss stepped closer, his weathered features softening with genuine affection. "Elena, you know I only want what's best for you. Your marriage to Prince Zirian of the Tau system will unite two of the most powerful civilizations in our sector. It's been arranged since you were a child." Elena's heart clenched at the reminder. Prince Zirian was everything an Andorian princess should want: noble, wealthy, politically advantageous. He was also cold, calculating, and had never once made her laugh the way James River's paintings had when she'd first discovered them in the cultural database. "What if I don't want what's been arranged for me?" she whispered. Before Voss could respond, a junior officer approached nervously. "Admiral, Princess, we're receiving a transmission from Earth's surface. It's unusual." They followed the officer to the communications center, where a holographic display showed a modest art studio bathed in afternoon sunlight. At the center of the image sat James River, completely unaware that his every movement was being broadcast to an alien warship. He was working on a canvas, his dark hair falling across his forehead as he concentrated, his hands moving with practiced grace as he mixed colors that seemed to capture the very essence of Earth's sky. Elena's breath caught in her throat. She'd studied his work for months during the journey to Earth, but seeing him actually create was mesmerizing. There was something pure about his focus, something honest about the way he translated emotion into color and form. "He's broadcasting to the fleet," the communications officer explained. "Apparently, Earth's Cultural Committee decided to share live feeds of their artists at work as a gesture of friendship," this James River fellow volunteered. As if he could sense he was being watched, James looked up directly into the camera. His smile was warm, genuine, and when he spoke, his voice carried across the void between them like a caress. "Hello out there," he said, wiping paint from his hands. "I'm James, and I know this might seem strange, but I wanted to share something with our visitors. This painting," he gestured to the canvas, which showed Earth and space in swirling harmony. "I started it the day we learned you were coming. It's my way of saying welcome." Elena found herself leaning closer to the display, captivated by his easy manner and the sincerity in his brown eyes. "I don't know much about your cultures or your art," James continued, "but I believe that beauty is universal. I hope that when we meet, we can share more than just words. I hope we can share the things that make us feel alive." The transmission shifted to show other artists across Earth, but Elena couldn't look away from where James had been. "Princess," Voss said carefully, "you cannot seriously be considering." "I want to meet him," Elena interrupted, her voice carrying the unmistakable tone of royal command. "Arrange it." "Elena, be reasonable. Your promise to Zirian. The betrothal ceremony is planned for the celebration's conclusion. The political implications. Elena said quietly, "Are that an Andorian princess?" fell in love with art created by a human, and now she wants to meet the artist. Unless you're suggesting that love itself is a threat to our diplomatic mission. Voss studied her face, seeing something there that made him sigh deeply. You're as stubborn as your father was. Very well, I'll arrange a cultural exchange meeting. But Elena, I know, she said softly. I know what's expected of me. But Voss, what if there's another way? What if these connections we're forming with humanity could change everything we thought? We knew about arranged marriages and political alliances. 2 hours later, Elena found herself in a shuttle descending toward Earth's surface, her heart racing with anticipation and terror. She'd changed out of her formal Andorian robes into something simpler, though she couldn't quite hide the subtle luminescence of her skin or the ethereal quality that marked her as royalty among her people. The art district of San Francisco was bustling with activity. As Earth prepared for the greatest cultural exchange in human history, Elena's shuttle landed in a designated area, and she was met by a human liaison who seemed barely able to contain his excitement at meeting an alien princess. Your Highness, the young man stammered, Mr. River is waiting in his studio. He's quite nervous actually. He can't believe you specifically requested to meet him. Elena smiled, feeling some of her own nervousness ease. Perhaps we can be nervous together. James River's studio was exactly as she'd seen it in the transmission, cluttered, warm, filled with canvases that captured every emotion imaginable. When she entered, he was standing with his back to the door, staring at a half-finished painting of the galactic fleet approaching Earth. Mr. River, Elena said softly. He turned, and the moment their eyes met, Elena felt something shift in the universe. This wasn't political calculation or diplomatic necessity. This was recognition, pure and simple, as if her soul had found something it had been searching for without knowing it was lost. You're real, James breathed, then immediately flushed red. I mean, of course you're real. You're people, you're so. He gestured helplessly, luminous. Elena laughed, a sound like silver bells that made James's heart skip. And you're exactly as I imagined. May I see your work for the next hour? James showed Elena his paintings while she shared stories of Andorian art and the vast galleries that floated in space around her home world. They discovered that beauty truly was universal, that the way light played across canvas could move hearts regardless of species, that color could speak languages that transcended the barriers between worlds. This one, Elena stopped before, a painting of a sunset over the Pacific Ocean. It makes me feel the same way our twin moons do when they rise together over the crystal gardens of Andoria. You really understand, James said wonderingly. Most people see a pretty picture, but you see the emotion behind it. Art is about connection, Elena replied, their hands brushing as they both reached toward the painting. The simple touch sent electricity through both of them. It's about sharing the pieces of ourselves that words cannot express. They stood there for a moment, hands touching, to beings from different worlds who had found something neither had expected. Then reality crashed back in as Elena's communicator chimed with an urgent message from Admiral Voss. I have to go, she said reluctantly. But James, would you consider coming to the celebration tomorrow as my personal guest? Are you sure? I'm just an artist. Surely there are more important people. There's no one more important, Elena said firmly. You've shown me that love, whether for art or for another being, is the most powerful force in the universe, and I think, she hesitated, then took a breath worthy of her royal courage. I think I'm falling in love with more than just your paintings. James's eyes widened, but before he could respond, Elena was gone, leaving only the faint scent of starflowers and the lingering promise that tomorrow would change everything. Arya Moon had always been different. While other humans struggled with basic telepathic communication devices, she could sense emotions across vast distances without any technology at all. Sitting in the observation lounge of Lunar Station Omega, she pressed her fingers against her temples and tried to block out the overwhelming flood of feelings emanating from the alien fleet surrounding Earth. Excitement, nervousness, joy, homesickness, anticipation, thousands of alien minds broadcasting their emotions into the void, and Arya felt them all. It was beautiful and exhausting and completely overwhelming. The readings are off the charts. Captain Torres said, settling into the chair beside her. Maria Torres had been Arya's friend since their academy days, and she was one of the few people who truly understood Arya's unique abilities. Our psychic monitoring stations are detecting emotional resonance patterns we've never seen before. Arya nodded, her pale blue eyes still closed in concentration. It's incredible, Maria. I can feel them, all beings from dozens of different worlds, all carrying their own hopes and fears about meeting us. Anything concerning? Maria asked, her hand moving instinctively to her sidearm. Even in this moment of galactic celebration, she remained a soldier at heart. No, Arya smiled, opening her eyes. Just the opposite. There's so much love in that fleet. Wonder, curiosity, genuine excitement about forming connections with humanity. She paused, her expression growing troubled. But there's something else, someone else. Before Maria could ask what she meant, alarms began blaring throughout the station, not emergency alarms, but the specific pattern that indicated an unscheduled arrival. Captain Torres to the docking bay, the station's eye announced. We have an unauthorized alien vessel requesting emergency asylum. Maria and Arya rushed to the docking bay, where they found a sleek fighter craft unlike anything in the approaching fleet. Its hull was scarred with weapons fire, and atmospheric breach alerts were flashing across the control panels. As they watched, the ship's canopy opened and a figure in a damaged flight suit climbed out. The being that removed his helmet was humanoid but clearly alien, tall and lean, with skin that seemed to shift between deep blue and violet, depending on the angle of light. His eyes were the color of distant nebulae, and when he looked directly at Arya, she gasped. The emotional connection hit her like a physical blow. Pain, loneliness, desperate hope, and underneath it all, a fierce determination that took her breath away. I seek sanctuary, the alien said in accented but clear English. My name is Dex Sterling, and I've abandoned my post in the Imperial fleet to warn you. Maria's weapon was in her hand before Arya could blink. Warn us about what? But Dex wasn't looking at Maria. His gaze remained fixed on Arya, and she could feel his shock at the strength of their mental connection. You can sense me, he said wonderingly. I felt you from 3-star systems away, this incredible warmth, this beacon of empathy in the darkness. Arya, Maria said sharply, step back. We don't know what he wants. He's not dangerous, Arya said softly, moving closer to Dex instead of away. He's been alone for so long, Maria, flying through space, carrying a burden that's been eating him alive. Dex's violet eyes never left hers. There are factions within the fleet, he said urgently. Not everyone came here for celebration. Some of the Outer Rim species still believe humanity should be conquered rather than welcomed. They're planning to sabotage the peace ceremony. Maria kept her weapon trained on him. And why should we trust you? Because, Dex said simply, she can feel that I'm telling the truth. It was true. Through their connection, Arya could sense no deception, only desperate sincerity and a longing that mirrored her own. She'd spent her entire life feeling isolated by her abilities, never quite fitting in anywhere. But with Dex, the connection felt natural, like coming home. There's more, Arya said, reading the deeper currents of his emotions. You didn't just come to warn us, you came because of me. Dex stepped closer, and Maria tensed. But he made no threatening moves. I've been scanning communication frequencies for weeks, trying to understand human psychology for my mission reports. But yesterday, when your emotional resonance began broadcasting across space, he paused, struggling for words. I've never felt anything like it. It was like finding light in an endless void. Arya, Maria warned, but her friend was already reaching out to touch Dex's hand. The moment their skin made contact, both Arya and Dex gasped. The telepathic connection that had been building between them suddenly blazed into full clarity, and for the first time in her life, Arya wasn't alone inside her own mind. Who are you? Dex's mental voice was wonder and disbelief. Someone who's been waiting her whole life to meet you. Arya replied without speaking aloud. Maria watched this exchange with growing alarm. Arya, we need to get you to medical. Whatever he's doing to you. He's not doing anything, Arya said, tears streaming down her face. Maria, I can feel his memories, his thoughts. He's been broadcasting distress signals for months, trying to contact anyone, who could understand what he was experiencing. Through their link, she saw flashes of Dex's life, a brilliant pilot who discovered his own telepathic abilities during a deep space mission, finding himself increasingly isolated from his own species as his empathic powers grew stronger. He'd been searching the galaxy for others like himself when he detected Arya's psychic signature. "The sabotage plot," Maria said grimly. "Tell us everything." Dex reluctantly broke physical contact with Arya, though their mental connection remained strong. 3 ships in the outer perimeter, vessels from the hegemony worlds. They believe humanity's influence will corrupt the galactic order. They plan to stage an attack during the peace ceremony, making it look like human aggression. When? Maria demanded. "Tomorrow, during the cultural exchange demonstration. They've modified their weapons to mimic human energy signatures. If they succeed, it will look like Earth betrayed the fleet's trust." Arya felt the truth of his words through their bond, along with something else, Dex's growing certainty that he'd found something worth protecting. "You defected," she said softly. "You abandoned everything you knew to warn us." "I abandoned everything I knew to find you," he corrected, his nebula-colored eyes soft with emotion. "And to stop a war that would destroy any chance of building something beautiful between our peoples." Maria lowered her weapon, seeing something in Arya's expression she'd never witnessed before. "Complete peace. We need to contact the fleet command immediately. If what you're saying is true, it is." Arya and Dex said simultaneously, their voices overlapping in perfect harmony. Maria stared at them for a moment, then activated her communicator. "Torres, to command. We have a priority alpha situation that requires immediate attention." And she looked at Arya and Dex, who were once again holding hands, their faces glowing with the joy of finally finding someone who truly understood them. "We're going to need new protocols for handling telepathic alien refugees who've fallen in love with our psychics." "Love," Dex whispered, the word carrying across both their spoken and mental connection. "Love," Arya confirmed, rising on her toes to kiss him gently. The moment their lips met, every psychic monitoring station within a light-year registered a burst of pure emotional energy, the signature of 2 lonely souls, finally finding their perfect match across the vast emptiness of space. As alarms began sounding throughout the fleet about the sabotage plot, Arya and Dex held each other close, knowing that tomorrow would bring danger and difficult choices. But tonight, for the first time in either of their lives, neither of them was alone. The galaxy had brought them together across impossible distances, and no force in the universe could tear them apart now. Luna Chase stood in the grand ballroom of the orbital station Harmony, watching as teams of humans and aliens worked together to transform the massive space into something magical. Crystal formations from the Metheny homeworld created natural lighting that shifted with the emotional resonance of those nearby, while human-designed gravity fields allowed guests to literally dance on air. As Earth's cultural ambassador, Luna had spent months planning this celebration, but nothing had prepared her for the reality of 47 different species attempting to create art together. "The gravitational harmonics are off by 0.3 degrees, called a voice behind her. Luna turned to see Orion Vale approaching, his tablet displaying complex mathematical equations that somehow related to dance choreography. The tall, elegant being from the Luminari Collective had been her counterpart in planning the celebration, and over the past weeks, their professional relationship had evolved into something much more complicated. Orion, Luna, smiled, though she could see the tension in his crystalline features. "I thought we agreed the gravitational variance would actually enhance the organic flow of the movement." "We did," he said, his voice carrying the musical quality that marked all Luminari speech. "But I've received new instructions from the Collective. They want precision, mathematical perfection. They're concerned that too much improvisation will send the wrong message about our civilization's compatibility." Luna felt her heart sink. For weeks, she and Orion had worked side by side, creating something unprecedented, a celebration that blended the structured beauty of alien traditions with the spontaneous creativity of human expression. Somewhere in those long planning sessions, sharing late-night conversations about art and culture. She'd fallen in love with his gentle wisdom and the way his entire being seemed to glow. When he talked about music, "What kind of wrong message?" she asked carefully. Orion set down his tablet and moved closer to her, his luminescent skin pulsing with colors she'd learned to read as frustration and longing. "Luna, my people believe in order, in tradition, in the beauty of eternal patterns. What you've created here." He gestured to the ballroom where humans and aliens were laughing together as they hung decorations that defied conventional physics, its chaos theory made manifest. "And they're not wrong. It is unpredictable, uncontrolled, impossible to quantify." But Luna prompted, seeing something in his expression that gave her hope. "But it's also the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced," Orion said softly. "Working with you, watching your people find new ways to express joy and wonder. Seeing the way you approach problems with intuition rather than calculation, it's changed everything. I thought I knew about the universe." Before Luna could respond, General Hayes's voice echoed through the ballroom's communication system. "All cultural ambassadors to the security briefing room. Priority Alpha." Luna and Orion exchanged worried glances before hurrying to the briefing room, where they found the other key organizers of the celebration gathered around a holographic display. Nora Blackwood stood beside a tall alien with star-bright eyes, while Arya Moon held hands with a being whose skin shifted between blue and violet. General Patricia Hayes looked grim as she activated the tactical display. "Thanks to intelligence provided by our new ally Dex Sterling," General Hayes began, nodding to the violet-skinned alien, "we've identified a credible threat to tomorrow's ceremony. 3 ships in the outer perimeter have been modified with weapons designed to mimic human energy signatures. They plan to attack during the cultural exchange, making it appear that Earth has betrayed the fleet's trust." Luna felt the blood drain from her face. "General, if they succeed," Hayes continued, "it won't just end the celebration. It could trigger a galactic war that destroys any chance of peaceful relations between our species." Orion stepped forward, his crystalline features reflecting the urgency of the moment. "General, the Luminari Collective has protocols for this type of situation. We can adjust our fleet formations to isolate the hostile vessels, prevent them from reaching the station. That's part of the solution," Hayes agreed. "But there's another problem. Our intelligence suggests that the attack is timed to coincide with a specific moment in the celebration, the Unity Dance that Luna and Orion have choreographed." Luna's heart clenched. The Unity Dance was supposed to be the culmination of everything they'd worked for, a moment when representatives from all 47 civilizations would move together in perfect harmony, demonstrating that differences in species, culture, and biology couldn't prevent beings from creating something beautiful together. "They're targeting the symbol," she whispered. "They want to destroy the exact moment that proves we can work together, which means," Orion said slowly, "we need to change the choreography. Make it unpredictable, impossible for them to time their attack precisely." General Hayes nodded. "Exactly, Luna, Orion. I need you to redesign the entire ceremony. Make it spontaneous, adaptive, something that can shift and flow in real time." Luna looked at Orion, seeing the conflict written across his luminous features. Everything in his culture valued precision, order, predictability. What they were asking him to do violated every principle the Luminari Collective held sacred. "Orion," she said gently, taking his hand, "I know this goes against everything you believe in." "No," he said firmly, his skin beginning to glow with soft golden light. "Luna, these past weeks working with you have taught me something my people forgot long ago. True beauty doesn't come from perfect order, it comes from the courage to create something new, something that's never existed before." He turned to address the room, his voice carrying new authority. "The Luminari Collective may value precision, but I've learned to value something more important, the magic that happens when different beings choose to trust each other completely." "What are you saying?" General Hayes asked. "I'm saying we don't just adapt the ceremony," Orion replied, his gaze finding Luna's. "We revolutionize it. Instead of a planned performance, we create a framework for pure improvisation. Every being in that ballroom will be free to express themselves however they choose, and we'll weave it all together in real time, Luna felt tears prick her eyes. Orion, if you do this, your collective might never forgive you. You could lose everything. He stepped closer, taking both her hands in his. Luna, 3 months ago, I thought everything meant following rules and maintaining order. Now I know that everything means standing beside the person who's shown you what it feels like to truly live. The person, Luna whispered. The woman, Orion corrected, his entire being now glowing with warm, golden light. That I love more than any tradition, any protocol, any expectation my people have ever placed on me. Around them, the other couples in the room, Nora and Zephyr, Elena and James, Arya and Dex, smiled with recognition and support. Love was becoming the thread that would hold the galaxy together. Then let's give them a celebration they'll never forget, Luna said, rising on her toes to kiss Orion softly. Let's show them what happens when love guides creation instead of fear guiding destruction. As they kissed, Orion's luminescent skin began to pulse in rhythm with Luna's heartbeat, creating a light show that reflected the perfect harmony they'd found between order and chaos, tradition and innovation, duty and love. Tomorrow would bring danger and uncertainty, but tonight, as they prepared to choreograph the most important dance in galactic history, Luna and Orion knew they had something worth fighting for, a love that proved different worlds could indeed move in perfect synchronization when their hearts beat as one. The morning of the celebration dawned with Earth's sun rising over a sky filled with ships from 47 different worlds. Nora Blackwood stood on the observation deck of Station Harmony, watching the most beautiful sight in human history unfold around her. Each alien vessel had positioned itself according to its species' cultural traditions, some forming geometric patterns that spoke of mathematical precision, others swirling in organic spirals that mimicked the flow of cosmic winds. Nervous? Zephyr asked, joining her at the viewport. His hand found hers naturally, their fingers intertwining as they had so many times over the past few days. Terrified, Nora admitted, smiling up at him, but in the best possible way. Throughout the station, the final preparations were reaching crescendo. Elena Frost moved through the corridors like a living star, her Andorian royal robes replaced by a flowing gown that James River had designed, a fusion of human artistry and alien elegance that perfectly represented their impossible love. Admiral Voss had initially protested her choice to appear publicly with a human artist rather than her betrothed Prince Zirian, but Elena's quiet determination had won the day. Are you ready for this? James asked, adjusting the collar of his formal wear nervously. He still couldn't quite believe that an alien princess had chosen him over galactic royalty. I've never been more ready for anything, Elena replied, her silver eyes sparkling with mischief. Besides, Prince Zirian was surprisingly understanding when I explained that my heart had chosen a different path. Apparently, he's been corresponding with a musician from the Rigel system. In the station's communications center, Arya Moon sat in deep concentration, her unique abilities now serving as the early warning system for the entire celebration. Through her telepathic connection with Dex Sterling, she monitored the emotional currents flowing through the gathered fleet, watching for any sign of hostile intent. Anything? Captain Torres asked, checking her security readings for the 100th time. The 3 hegemony ships are definitely planning something, Arya replied, her eyes still closed in concentration. But there's something else, Maria. I'm sensing doubt, conflict. It's like they're second-guessing their mission. Dex nodded, his violet skin pulsing with gentle bioluminescence as he maintained their psychic link. My people aren't naturally violent. They're afraid that humanity will disrupt the order they've known for millennia. But fear can be transformed into understanding with the right catalyst. In the grand ballroom, Luna Chase made final adjustments to the gravity fields while Orion Vale calibrated the crystalline light rays. Their revolutionary approach to the Unity dance had required completely new technology systems that could respond to the emotional resonance of the participants in real time, creating a celebration that would be different every moment. The Luminari Collective is furious with me, Orion said, though his tone carried more amusement than concern. They've officially declared my artistic choices catastrophically unpredictable. Luna laughed, the sound causing the nearby crystals to pulse with warm golden light. I love how they think that's a bad thing. Ready to make history? General Hayes asked as she entered the ballroom. Behind her came delegates from dozens of worlds, each dressed in their finest ceremonial attire, their faces or the alien equivalent showing anticipation and wonder. As ready as anyone can be for controlled chaos, Luna replied, taking Orion's hand. The celebration began with individual presentations from each species. The Metheny created sculptures from living light. The Tau Collective performed mathematical symphonies that translated abstract concepts into pure music. The Endorians shared poetry that painted pictures with words. But the true magic happened in the spaces between, when different species began to collaborate spontaneously. Nora found herself translating not just languages, but cultural concepts, helping a silicon-based life form understand why human tears indicated joy rather than distress. Zephyr used his anthropological knowledge to bridge gaps between species who had never encountered each other before, turning potential misunderstandings into moments of profound connection. Elena and James created art together in real time, her royal knowledge of galactic aesthetics combining with his human intuition to produce paintings that captured the emotional essence of first contact. Their collaboration drew crowds of beings who watched in fascination as two completely different artistic traditions merged into something entirely new. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for, the Unity Dance. As beings from 47 worlds gathered in the ballroom, the lights dimmed and the gravity fields activated. What followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of following predetermined steps, each being moved according to their species' natural expression of joy. Some floated through the air in graceful spirals. Others created patterns of light with their bioluminescent skin. Still others sang harmonies that resonated through the station's hull. Lua and Orion moved through the crowd, their love serving as a gravitational center that drew all the disparate movements into one magnificent, ever-changing pattern. Arya felt the shift first, the moment when the hostile emotions from the hegemony ships began to transform. Through her connection with Dex, she could sense the saboteurs watching the celebration, seeing their carefully ordered worldview challenged by something more beautiful than they had ever imagined. They're standing down, she whispered to Captain Torres. The hegemony ships, they're not going to attack. How can you be sure? Because, Dex said, his voice filled with wonder, they're crying. Beings who haven't shown emotion in centuries are weeping at the beauty of what they're witnessing. As the dance reached its crescendo, something extraordinary happened. The crystalline arrays that Orion had calibrated began to resonate not just with the emotional currents in the ballroom, but with the feelings of every being in the gathered fleet. Light began to pour from the station, creating aurora-like displays that painted the space around Earth in colors that had no names. In that moment, the four couples found themselves at the center of the dance, Nora and Zephyr representing the bridge between diplomat and scout, Elena and James showing that love could transcend social expectations, Arya and Dex proving that understanding could overcome fear, and Luna and Orion demonstrating that chaos and order could create perfect harmony when guided by love. As the music swelled to its final note, beings throughout the fleet began to sing not in their individual languages, but in a new harmony that emerged spontaneously from their shared experience. The sound carried across space, reaching Earth itself, where humans gathered in cities worldwide heard the song of galactic unity for the first time. When the celebration finally ended, as beings from different worlds embraced and exchanged contact information and cultural artifacts, General Hayes made an announcement that would echo through history. Today marks not just first contact between Earth and the galactic community, she said, her voice carrying to every ship in the fleet, but the beginning of a new age where love, rather than fear, guides our interactions with the unknown. Months later, as construction began on the first permanent cultural exchange station positioned between Earth and the galactic core, Nora stood once again at an observation viewport. Beside her, Zephyr worked on plans for expanding the ambassador program to include permanent couples from different species. Do you ever regret it? She asked. Leaving your old life behind for this uncertain future? Zephyr smiled, his star-bright eyes reflecting the lights of ships from dozens of worlds. Nora, the galaxy's greatest army did descend on Earth. But it wasn't an army of conquest, it was an army of hearts, all searching for the same thing we found. And what's that? Home, he said simply, kissing her gently as Earth turned below them. No longer alone in the cosmic dark, but surrounded by friends who had traveled across the galaxy to accept an invitation extended 50 years ago by scientists who dared to hope. The table had been set, the feast had been shared, and the galaxy would never be the same.